Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and look who we have here. Luke Wilson in studio. Everything okay with you? I'm getting worried about you. I mean,
worried about me.
Well, you guys are picking losers, and you're picking fights with Doogie, and Al's brother's out of his ayahuasca retreat. Everything's moving in our direction.
Al's brother, for your best interest, needs to stay at that retreat.
Well, that's not going to happen. At some point, he had to leave. He's in good spirits. I want everyone to know that. He's back home. He's resting, and he's
I'll
happy.
tell you what, in his highest state on the ayahuasca retreat, he's not shy to just chirp in. You guys don't even know what you're doing.
I'm like, the next thing that's classic is that on the year we had a 2-game rough spell here, and we'll get into that. You guys have picked one game correctly.
That's it.
One.
Well, I mean, last night was a half point.
1-1.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and
That's valid.
Al's brother's coming in from the clouds like, you guys are unraveling.
What are you guys are
Unraveling
plus
was a very dirty word.
Unraveling is
is
rich. But you guys are 2 and 3. You had a hot start. We're rope-a-doping. That's what I said. We're going to rope-a-dope early. Now the information's in. The wheels are in motion. And we're going to start taking
The
off.
information is in.
The information's in. We've seen every team play twice. That's what was necessary.
The trends.
Yeah, we've got
There's
trends.
some bad
Nothing.
trends.
Yeah,
We were
nothing's
talking
going
about
on.
it.
It's terrible.
Is this
Yeah.
bad football? Like, what do you make of where we're at?
Yes, there's been some bad football. I also thought, and I feel like every year there's one weekend in the NFL where it's just a bunch of flukes. Like, you look at the Niners-Vikings game, and I thought the Vikings played well. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But you look at the stat lines, like Purdy threw, I think, for 319. Mason ran 20 carries for 100 yards, and somehow they still lose. But it's like you have a punt blocked, you have a 4th down close to the goal line, you get stopped. Purdy throws one, the ball slips, it's picked. Like, just when it rains, it pours type thing. The weird one, the Lions losing to the Bucks, I thought was strange, and Cowboys getting blown out also. Like,
that
are they
one
that
is
bad?
Like New Orleans, because nobody paid attention to them week 1 because they played Carolina. Like, no one took it seriously.
Yeah.
And then you go into Dallas and you hang 44 on them. That's impressive, man. That Dallas team never loses at home. That defense is so elite at home, generally speaking.
I still am not on the Saints bandwagon yet. Like, I'm not a huge believer in their pass offense. Even
They'll go and
yesterday-
lose to a garbage team next.
Yes, and it's like, I think Carr threw for like 244, and most of them were long bombs, most of the yardage, I'm saying. So I sit here and I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, if you can't run the ball, which they're not going to be able to run for 190, that's what they ended up with yesterday. I still think the Saints are a mid-level team in this league. But
The good teams that haven't won, like there's some 0-2
Ravens,
Bengals.
Bengals are
Is
bad.
there one where you're like,
Bengals are bad?
they could be actually in trouble? Like, they usually turn it around and get it together. Like, would you say there's a chance they'll miss the playoffs?
Miss the playoffs? I would say no. Like, even what I wanted to see from Cincinnati yesterday was pretty much they checked every box for me.
Dude, they got to figure out that wide receiver. Like, get rid of him or sign him or whatever.
Ridiculous.
That's a mess.
Jamar Chase, you're
Yeah.
saying.
Joe Burrow shoving him, then he comes off to the sideline. He's talking smack to Coach Taylor. I mean,
Get
flaming
that
the
sorted
hell
out,
Well,
man. That's
and
a
the
mess.
review, he was in the wrong. There
Yes.
was it was not a flag-worthy play.
Not at all. What's weird is that, it didn't really look like he got twisted up either. Like, hey, it wasn't a dirty play. It wasn't a hip drop tackle. Like, right here, we're watching the shove, and it's like, at that moment, 10 minutes left in the game, against the Chiefs, of all teams, on the road, it's like, hey, those 15 yards now didn't because McPherson made a long one. We need every single one of these 15 yards. Even, time, possession, we get a first down, whatever it is. It's like, man, this is going to come down to a last-second field goal, and it did. Mm-hmm. And it's just like in that moment, and you can't be that unhinged. After the game, go off, man. You want to talk smack, go to the media, go to your GM, rip whomever you want to rip. But, like, if I'm on the squad right there, it's like, man, we just went toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFL, and we've got a shot to win this thing, and you're putting on this performance. It's tough.
I'm also not buying the Schefter report that Chase is not willing to negotiate with the Bengals now. Like, if they come to him and give him
Jerry
the price.
Jones's comment.
Well, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Right.
Once you pay them the money, they stop being so angry.
That's correct.
Like, if that owner in Cincinnati goes, fine, we'll pay you.
Yes.
then he's going to accept it and he's going to be willing to negotiate.
Right away.
Immediately he'll take it.
Correct.
And no one's going to hold him to the report.
No.
Like, no one, you don't get peanut.
You said
no,
you
wait a
sign.
minute.
Yes.
No. You can't do that.
Imagine the owner comes
do
out
that.
and is like, well, I'm going to write this offer up, but he's not allowed to sign it because he said he wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole thing, and like yesterday, that was the kind of tip of the iceberg of it all, where it's like it just seems immature. I'm not going to talk anymore. It's like, man, I get you're frustrated. I understand that. But it's like you don't say, like, I'm not going to negotiate. Everybody knows on planet Earth that if the right number comes, you're signing that deal, especially in this league. But, again, what's shocking to me is you've got Joe Burrow, who looked very good yesterday. They battled the Chiefs. Burrow, I thought, was locked in, competing like hell. Tight ends are showing up out of nowhere for Cincy, making plays. And it's like, hey, we're in the fourth quarter, and Burrow's in your face like, bro, calm down. And it's like, no, I'm still going after the ref.
What about the refs? We were talking about it last hour.
Yeah, it's inconsistent.
I mean, obviously, Kansas City, that was pass interference, was it
The
not?
last play was for sure.
Yeah.
Kansas City, I do find, and now it's been noticed more, they do seem to get away with more things throughout the game. But the end of the game there, it's a PI. Like, that one is clear as day.
Right.
But I get where everyone's like, hey, Kansas City gets away with all these holds. The thing that I do think is occurring at the moment is that because it's Kansas City and because now this is the social media narrative, everyone's looking for it, where you'd be amazed how many holds go on. Like, they always say there's one hold per play in every game, and it's all a matter of, like, the ref seeing it.
Right.
Even, I know it's a different game, but last night, the Sunday Nighter, the linebacker for the Texans gets up, throws a full punch. The ref's got his back to him. He could have been ejected for that, and then headbutts the next guy, and nobody saw it.
Right.
So it's like one of those things where, especially some of those refs, like, plays are going quick. There's 5 linemen. He's looking kind of over here. And unless it's a blatant hold, they're not going to call it. So I do think Kansas City does get away with some penalties. But I also am kind of like, hey,
they're also better than everybody else.
They are better than everyone else, and they make a lot of plays.
They're better than everyone else. And there's not a lot of context to a lot of this stuff either. Like, the one thing trending last night is no one's had more interceptions pulled back than Mahomes. But there's no context to the fact that he very well could have seen the flag and said, screw it, I'm throwing it.
Totally agree.
And so it doesn't really count if he's willing to go for it when he knows that the play is going to be recalled anyway.
Also, it's not like the flags come in after the throw. That's what I find. Like, oh, it's interception. Mahomes was bringing it back. I'm like, the flag has been, like, it's not like, oh, there's a pick, let's just throw some laundry on the field. So, again, I do think that it's probably similar in basketball. Like, when you're LeBron James, you get a few extra calls. My dad, I've told you guys this, big Leaf fan. I was too young to understand, but he's mentioned many times when Wayne Gretzky high-sticked was a Doug Gilmour.
Doug Gilmour, 93.
Trust me, I heard about 93. I would have been 3 years old. Like, anybody other than Wayne's probably getting that call. So I do think there's some of that. But to the degree of, like, hey, we're on board to, like, try and get the Chiefs to win, no I'm not buying that.
Conspiracy theory here. Something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza, the best place for any family meal. Plus, for the month of September, kids eat free with the minimum purchase when you dine in. So grab the kids and hustle in your local BP tonight. We're asking people online. Asked you, of the 0-2 teams, like, which ones are actually just brutal? What about the other side? Of the 0-2 teams, like the Ravens, the Bengals, the Jags, the Colts, the Rams, which one do you have faith will, by the end of this dance, be an elite team or a team to be reckoned with?
After last night, I would say Cincinnati's won. The team that I'm a little bit on the fence, and I want to be very clear when I say this,
Baltimore.
I'm worried about Baltimore a bit. And I don't think they're a bad team. Like, they're not, obviously not garbage. But I look at Baltimore, and I'm like, okay, defensively, you lose Patrick Queen. Now, they still have Roquan Smith at linebacker, but I go back to our Seattle days. We had Bobby Wagner. We also had K.J. Wright. If we were to lose K.J. Wright, that's a massive loss. So you lose Patrick Queen. You lose Jadeveon Clowney. I played a season with Jadeveon Clowney. When he wanted to play, which was few and far between, but whenever he wanted to play, this guy was a freak, like, unbelievable. And last year...
That guy get paid?
Paid. paid.
Big bucks.
His first overall pick.
Yeah.
South Carolina.
That was a fun year. Well, like from a comedic standpoint, not necessarily from a teammate standpoint, but we can get into that.
Okay. I like that.
You know, you lose Geno Stone, who, again, he's not Kyle Hamilton. You know, he's not Humphreys out there. He led the NFL for safeties and interceptions last year. And you lose your D coordinator, who's now the head coach of the Seahawks. You lose Gus the Bus and J.K. Dobbins. Now you bring in Henry, but to me, and I thought it looked better yesterday, it's almost like they have two different offenses now, one with Henry in the game and one without him. Offense did not look great, you know, in either weeks. Didn't score a ton of points. Week 1 especially, I thought Lamar just played hero ball to save him. You're sitting here, you got a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. You're now 0-2. Steelers are 2-0. I'm not saying they're going to run away with the division, but very good defensive football team. The Browns, I think the jury's out. It's all on Deshaun Watson, or if they decide to bench him. We're now 1-1. And after seeing Cincy, and like, again, even though they lost, the fight in Joe Burrow, the kind of moxie, whatever you want to call it, the swagger, I did think came back yesterday. And when Joe's got that kind of look in his eye and is playing like that, defense looked better, you know. I'm worried for Baltimore. I am.
It's interesting. FanDuel's got them still as favored to win the AFC North, plus 185. Bengals, plus 190. So 2 0-2 teams, in terms of odds to win the division, are sitting ahead of 2-0 Steelers, 1-1 Browns.
And I get it. Like the Steelers,
based on their history and everything.
Yeah, and the Steelers have scored, I believe, 1 offensive touchdown in 2 games.
Right. They have an aggregate score of 28, and they're 2-0.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
1954.
And it's funny because everyone says to me, like, oh, Justin Fields is 2-0. We should ride them on the starter. And I just want to be like, what games are we watching?
Right.
This guy has, like, and then one play game, he'll roll out and fling one down the field. And everyone's like, he's sick. I'm like, dude, what about the other 79 plays?
Yeah.
He's accounted for 1 touchdown, which was to their backup tight end he's 6'6", I think 250, 260, probably more. It was a back shoulder fade. Good throw. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Wasn't like he was reading anything. Wasn't like it was like, hey, I got to manipulate the safety and zing a ball in the back line. Not that. That's my point here. And we're like, oh, man, Fields is 2-0. We ought to leave him in there. And I'm not saying Russ is going to take him to the promised land. But, you know, if he gives him even a slightly bit better chance to win right now, why is Russ not going in?
Can you address something here for us when it comes to Russ? Because he was not technically inactive, right? He was the third-string emergency. Does he have to be fully dressed?
Why is he dressed?
Like, can he not throw on a tracksuit? What's the deal with Russ,
Never
man?
seen that before.
I think it's absurd through 2 weeks.
But, and I like Russ. I really do. But when everyone is like, what is Russ doing?
Yeah.
Just remember that I have spent 7 years with this man in a locker room. And for the first 5, it was my locker, a space, and his locker. So there's a lot of moments in my life where I've kind of been like, that's a bit strange over there, but I just, nod my head and let him do his thing.
Were you at the point where you saw like the famous wife Strange, or you just saw like regular dude type Strange?
I think a combo. Like the stories about Russ kind of go on, and he's not like the most. And I think he'd be the first guy to admit this, but he's not the most. He's. I wouldn't call him a locker room guy, and I don't mean that in a negative way, in the sense of like, hey, we all want to avoid him. It's not like that. Just like
he's not in the mix.
He's not in the mix. He's not. We used to have a sauna or steam room. You want to talk about conspiracies, but in Seattle, we always thought that the locker room was bugged. So it'd be like, hey, if we ever wanted to like talk some trash about our coaches or somebody, and it'd be like, hey, we got a sauna meeting today, and the boys would go in there and just air out all their grievances. That sauna holds a lot of dark stories. Let's put it that way. And Russ was never going to be like in the sauna talk there, if that makes sense. And if he was, the sauna talk would be
dialed down.
Extremely dialed down.
Okay. I like that.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's very
But he balls out. I get for us. I know recently he hasn't. So it's like, if he wants to
That's a damning comment, though, for people that don't understand a locker room. If you have to tone down the chat when a guy's around, that's basically saying a lot.
Not trusted. That's the thing. Just so you know, I guarantee you that sauna is probably the one that was bugged.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Like everywhere else was not bugged. They're like, Pete is like, we're bugging that
That's the spot. All these
Like
guys are in there.
100%. Yeah.
After I screwed up last night on a play call, half the team's in the sauna. Let's bug it.
Yes.
Luke Wilson in studio. Do you see that scene? For starters, I got to give a shout out to my Packers. That they
Agreed.
bullied
Agreed.
Indianapolis. They ran the ball. The
Yeah.
defense was unbelievable. But their center, Josh Myers, threw up on the ball.
I've never seen that. I've never seen it.
Have you? You've never seen it?
I've never seen it in as far as like puking goes in a game. I've actually never seen that. I know like the odd video exists. But what's strange to me is, and I go back to college because back in the day, we're young idiot kids. Our strength coach in college, it was like, who could I make puke first? And we're not leaving until 30 guys go down. And you sit there and we kind of joke, but like you watch these guys puke. I've never seen anyone not be able to like not control where the projectile vomit is going. Why did we choose the ball?
On the ball and then hikes the ball. It's a third down, and Malik Willis, like he had to take off. That's actually presence of mind. And he got to the sideline, and LaFleur asked him why he didn't throw. He's like, I couldn't grip the ball. The guy threw up all over the ball. Like, how do you not? I guess you can't call for a timeout there, but do you not yell to your quarterback like, dude, you got to flag, you got to call something here?
It's got to be one of
Spike
those
it,
things
do
where you're just
something.
like, what in the hell is this?
Yes.
I mean, home opener, Lambeau was rocking. The guy throws up on the ball.
But you do respect it. We talked, was it last week, about having your O-lineman drive F-150s?
Yeah.
That guy's driving an F-150.
Well, and he picked up his coverage,
he's puking
too.
on the ball.
Like, he watch this. He's like, come get some, man.
that's
He's
what
picking
he-
up a double
yeah,
team.
get off me.
Like, the guy is on fire after he
Yeah.
throws up.
It's funny.
I love it, man.
Yeah, I love it, and it's like I kind of laugh, and I'm looking at the Bills this year. We got jammed up by them on Thursday.
Play tough, man.
But and I fall victim to it as well because you sit here and you watch, all the media coverage across any network, and it's like, oh, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Patty Mahomes. Then the more I watch, and I'll rewind games, I'll try and get the all 22 view, and it's like the end of the day, offensive linemen win you games. Like, you got a guy playing like that, and you're like, man, what happened? Jordan Love goes down. Everybody on planet Earth is writing off the pack, and it's like, oh, you know what we'll do? We'll have that guy who's going to puke on the football.
Yeah.
Okay. Hand off a twist, chase after the next guy trying to get some more action.
I love it.
And that's how you win games.
Well, that's probably why Bryce Young is being benched. I mean, that news came out of Carolina today.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton's going in because, again, I'm just reviewing this and reading about it, but by all accounts, that line is doing really, really well.
Yes.
Like, they're giving him great protection. I saw one of the offensive line grades. It was like 5th in the league. Like, in other words, these vets and these Bulldogs are like, dude, we're doing everything we can for you.
Yeah.
You stink, and you cannot throw a ball. I thought the same thing. I didn't love the line on the Bears last night. I thought they were under siege a lot. But you could see the vets in Chicago were looking back on them saying, man, you got to start making some throws here, man.
Yeah.
Like, these young quarterbacks, if you're going to go in, like Young did last year, like Williams has done now, you got to win pretty quick.
For sure.
You got to win over your locker room pretty quick.
And you got to make regular plays. And what I mean by that, and I thought the Bears, will start there, did a good job. I was sitting there, I'm watching above Jay's studio, and the first play of the game, they were in like what seemingly looked like a wishbone set, and you literally fullback flat, get him a completion. And I'm like, boom, might have been 2-3 yards. Again, average fan, you're sitting there, you're like, what the heck kind of play call is that? Well, if you watch Caleb week 1, he was just wildly inaccurate. So I think what Shane Waldron, the OC there, was thinking, like, hey, let's get this guy a couple early completions. Very, very simple stuff. Short, get him feeling into a rhythm, and get him, comfortable. And Caleb Williams in the first drive was elite, throwing the ball around. Nothing crazy, but move the ball. But then all of a sudden, it's like that first 15 plays, which are all generally scripted, kind of go out the window, and we need you to start, processing the game. And I still think Caleb Williams, I thought he was better. I did think he was better from week 1 to week 2. But you see the moments where he thinks it's college still. He thinks
Hero ball.
Yes, I can do this here. Like in the Pac-12, I can shake some D-end or D-lineman and then fling this ball. And there was an interception through to Cole Kmet on the sideline, a scramble. And he actually did a great job that time of eluding a sack. But it's like, if you're going to play that game, and Russ in his prime could do this like nobody else, that throw on the run can't not be wildly accurate, because as much as your guys are ripping around, so are the others. And these guys will close. And I thought it was a great pick where it's like, oh, I've got Cole Kmet. Let's, fit it in there. It's like, no, this needs to be a laser beam, my guy. Like, as hard as you can throw it, that's how it's got to come out. And I feel like DJ Moore to me has been a guy. I don't know if you saw him at the end of the game.
He was pissed, man.
And
he had separation there. That's a throw you got to make.
And I sit there, and if I'm DJ Moore, it's like, and this is one thing that bothers me. I'm sure it's every league, but it bothers me about the NFL is guys get narratives. And I look at DJ Moore, and I think this is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. With the right system and quarterback, he's pushing top 5.
Really?
But instead, it's been tail end of Cam Newton in Carolina into Justin Fields, into now this rookie guy. And it's like, if he is with an Aaron Rodgers and running routes like he did last night,
dude, it's career altering.
And that's exactly it. He's sitting here, and we're talking about him as a top 5 guy. Like, I think he's that talented, but instead he's walking off the field, rolling his eyes. Like, what did I do to the football gods to deserve this?
Yeah, no kidding, man. And that's it with young quarterbacks like Will Levis in Tennessee. His coach is calling him out already.
This coach was asking him what the bleep he was doing.
Yeah, they cost him 2 weeks in a row. Same thing, turnovers in the red zone.
Yelling, ran on the field yelling at him.
What are you doing?
What the F are you doing? Like,
Killing him.
Like,
It's
just
crazy,
went
man.
right at him. It's like, but that was, you mentioned it. That's college hero ball. And just, I can get this off, right?
To add to that, Noodles, where I think some of the bad football is coming from is that guys, and maybe it's NIL, and maybe I'm starting to sound like an old guy now, but it's like you grow up now trying to make highlight plays, trying to like, I want to be the star. I want this to be on, Sports Center. Where it's like, that situation with Levis, at the time you got a 7-point lead. Yeah. The Jets started flat, very flat. Understand the situation. Ton of pressure on the Jets. Didn't look great week 1. They come out on the road, look flat. They got a game on Thursday, so you know that practice this week, they've probably not been full beans because coach is like, we got 3 games in 11 days. Yeah. We got a shot here. Yeah, we're not going to score. Take the sack, kick the field goal. It's 10-0. We're up 2 scores. Yeah. Instead, Will Levis is like, here's the ball back, and let me just give you a shot of adrenaline right into your veins. And Aaron Rodgers on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Aaron, if it's a close game, will find ways, matchups, a throw, a special play that will be the difference. Do I think he was an All-Pro yesterday? No. But there are a couple plays yesterday where you're like,
he made that throw to Garrett Wilson off his back foot. That was
stupid.
Just absurd.
Even the touchdown to Breece Hall, it's like, boom, he checked all of that at the line.
Yeah.
Goes up there, sees a linebacker on Breece. Yep. And it was funny. I was listening to his old teammate, James Jones. Everyone has different sides. He goes, watch Aaron do this. He's picking a fly off his shoulder. Fly right to Breece, signals something over here, boom, TD. And again, I think Aaron will get better, but my point is, like, if you're Will Levis, yes, you're young, but that doesn't excuse you from understanding, like, hey,
the moment.
2 scores is being up 2 is a lot different than being up 1 in that league. Like, yes,
it'd be driving me nuts, man, to watch a young kid like that and say he's got to play like the other guy for us to have a chance to be like a quality team. Yeah. That's eons away, man.
Eons away. Like, it's not even close.
No. Dude, we were saying that kid in Carolina, like, we might never see that guy again.
So this is what gets strange to me with this whole thing with Bryce Young. This morning, just chopping it up, and someone's like, this is before the news came out. They're like, you think you'll bench Bryce Young? I'm like, absolutely not. Why would they ever bench Bryce Young? And I don't get it. And now where my head goes is there's something emotional going on, or between the ears, whatever you want to call it. Because Andy Dalton is coming into play. And I like Andy Dalton. I do. I think he's a great quarterback.
Great might be a stretch. But he's
good.
He's better than what Bryce Young is right now.
Serviceable veteran.
Yes.
Right.
Much better
Keep
description.
him in a game.
But my point here is you're not going to the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton. Can we all agree on that?
Of course. They're not going anywhere.
You're not making the playoffs. So it's like, why? What are you trying to do? Go, 9-8 with Andy and then be like, we got a 15th pick overall? To me, why not sit here with Bryce Young and be like, hey, we don't care what the media says. We don't care if you throw 6 picks a game and everybody on Twitter kills you. We need you to get better because we still think you are the future of this team. Where I get nervous now is like the fact that they're benching him must mean like, hey, we think he needs a mental reset. Take some time away, take the pressure off him a little bit, let him have some fun playing football again. The moment's too big. We'll bring him back in 2-3 weeks. So that's where I think this has now gotten. Where as much as because he interviews good, he's not like crying on the interviews. But I do think that Dave Canales is probably over there now thinking, let's take a little bit off this guy's plate mentally.
Dude, that owner down there,
That's
I don't know how you
say.
make an owner go away, but
I don't trust the owner.
Gong show.
I don't trust that the owner didn't get involved. Like, I really don't. He's that big of a crapshoot that he didn't say, hey,
down and said, get rid of this guy.
Well, like, when you look at what they gave up to get him, too, I have it in front of us. The Panthers, this is what they traded away to get the pick for Bryce Young. The 9th overall pick in 23, the 61st overall pick in 23, the 1st overall pick in 24 that went to the Bears, a 2nd-round pick in 2025, DJ Moore, and $37.9 million in cash.
Correct.
And this guy's a backup.
Insane?
That's how much they gave. And here's what makes it worse. And
CJ Stroud was sitting right there.
Stroud went second, and it was a coin flip. It was which one do you want?
Yeah.
Like Stroud, is bigger. Young is maybe from a better program or whatever it was, and they went with Young. And Stroud, look how good he looks right now. He looks like a veteran that knows what he's doing.
Light years in front of Bryce
and he's already playing. And 2-0 down in Houston. It's incredible.
To me, again, I sit here, though, for Bryce, and I'm like, hey, it's hard. And I'm not saying this is easy. You sit there, ignore the media. Like, he's getting killed. I get that. But, like, if I'm Dave Canales, I'm going out here now and saying, okay, we're not going to win the division. We're not going to make the playoffs. Bryce, you're throwing it 45 times next week. 45 times. Like, what plays you want, what throws you like. Go out there. Pretend like you're a little kid again. There's no pressure. Just sling the ball around. You throw 5 picks. Maybe, you'll set the interception single-season record, which I believe right now Peyton Manning owns.
Peyton's got like 31 or something like that. Yeah,
it's like, again, obviously Peyton Manning is 1A, 1B.
Side note, did you see that Arch Manning play over the weekend?
Yeah.
Yes. That kid is coming, man. You talk about tanking. That might be what that's what Carolina should do.
Then keep Bryce Young in. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Keep him in because he's got to play next year and basically be terrible for 2 years.
Whose kid is that again?
That's Cooper Manning, the oldest brother.
Yes.
Kid. But that kid.
He looks like a stud.
Looks so good.
And he kind of looks athletic.
Yeah, he ran for 65 yards, juking guys.
Well, I'm like, you think of the Mannings, like you don't think of.
Yeah.
Running period.
That's going to be a story in Texas because the kid that he replaced that got hurt, they're saying he may be a top 5 pick
for
this
sure.
year. Like he's a really good quarterback.
Very good.
A senior, and he went back. But Arch is sitting there, and Texas is like, man, we're paying this guy probably $3 million to be there.
Oh, maybe more.
He's the future. It's a Manning.
Yeah.
I would love to know how
man.
much these Texas kids are actually getting paid. Like when I was at Rice.
There's going to be a great Netflix series
for
on
sure.
that.
But it's legal now. It's all
I know,
good.
but even that, Hayes, like how much more? And why I say that, Texas is light years ahead of Rice as far as football, everything. And there was some shady stuff going on at Rice, and there's 10 schools better than us just in the state of Texas. Like, when I say guys buying $1 trucks, like, I was giving baseball lessons one summer. Okay, I would love to know how far this NIL money actually goes.
Well, I mean, again, he stayed there where with the portal, he could have gone anywhere and started.
Correct.
And he was like, no, I'm going to stay here. I want to play for Sark. And it's like something's up in Texas. Like someone must have went to him before the portal hit and said, here's $10 million. We need you to stick around.
For sure.
Like literally.
Christie pitch.
It could be like boosters or NIL or whatever. Like the NIL on the record and then off the record, here's another like $10 million cash.
Guys would be getting, this was 15 years ago, but you'd have just a cake, an actual cake in your room. You'd go into a hotel room or whatever, and there'd be a cake in there, and in there just being a cake and an envelope. Nothing on it, just a bundle of cash. You don't know who it's from. You just take maybe you have a piece of cake and you take the envelope.
What's the cake for? Why do you need cake?
I'm sure someone delivered the cake so that no one's on the security cameras. Like, hey,
I see.
Someone said to pick this cake up.
And an envelope.
That's
not shady at all.
This guy's getting paid.
Oh,
my buddy owned a flower shop in Carolina. And I walked in there one day to see him, and there was 2 of the most gigantic human beings you've ever seen. 19, 20-year-old guys, and I was like, who are those guys? He's like, they work here. Don't worry about that.
Lineman, flower,
they work
here.
North Carolina. All right, you guys are on the clock here. It's Eagles Falcons tonight. Eagles -5.5 according to FanDuel. You guys
Part C.
Need to pick a winner here. Let's call it what
Part
it is.
C, you might be upset with me on this, but I just want you to hear me out.
I just want to chime in with one thing.
Please.
I think there's a chance my guy Kirky Cousins respond and isn't that junk.
Primetime
Say
Kirk.
less. We're on the foul.
Yes, baby, let's go.
Let's go.
You're taking primetime Kirk Cousins.
100%.
Do you understand how
Did
this
you
guy
look at the
plays on Monday
response of
night?
Joe Burrow?
Yes.
Kirky Cousins
Yes.
could do it. Kirky Cousins could
It's
do
the
it.
same line.
But you
It's
know
the same
damn well
line.
that they suck tonight. He's going to come back with under the lights in prime time. This guy's garbage.
Nobody worse, maybe in the history of football, than Kirk Cousins.
When he was on the Vikings. Now he's a new man. He's got a new Achilles.
You
He's
see
a
him
new
last
man.
year? He was brutal last week.
This is why I love this line. Last
Dude,
week,
it's a big ass though watching this cat last
Philly
night.
on a
agree,
long
but
break coming
Vic
back from
Fangio
Brazil.
had his great week one. He still gave up 29.
Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio's going to struggle tonight.
Now we got to root for Vic
You're on
Fangio.
Vic Fangio's
I've
side
always
tonight.
been a big fan of Vic Fangio.
You love Vic.
Yeah, we love Vic Fangio. All right, well, I got to make sure Al's brother knows. I mean, he's probably in a bit of a stupor
Parts, are
right
you
now.
sure?
I'll tell you why I even like the back door in this. You know, Kirk, even if they're down 10, something like that, he's a great stat guy.
Let me
late in
just
the game.
interrupt you. I don't know Kirk. I need you to know Kirk.
This defense is much worse than Pittsburgh. They got a good run game with Bijan. Kirk's going to look a lot better. Again, just in the chat, ignore the Muppets. When Philly's up 10 and there's like a minute 12 left, and you're like, man, we're going to get jammed because Kirk's going to come down there, hit a couple throws, and they'll lose by 3, and the cover will be great.
Not in that building. You're going to bet against the Eagles home opener on a Monday night. Do you know what that building's going to sound like tonight?
Dude, all I know is for
understand?
the last 3 years sitting in here beside you, every time this guy plays in a primetime game, you're like the worst player in
horrendous.
the history of the league.
It's horrendous.
I'm telling you, Kirk's back.
Okay.
Kirk's back.
With a new Achilles. Kirk's back with a new Achilles.
He's
and
got a
whole
new Achilles and a new
offense.
uniform.
All right.
Isn't it hashtag Rise Up? Isn't that their thing?
That might be their thing.
I'm just going to be putting that in the
Rise
chat.
up.
Rise
Go
up.
for
Rise
it.
up.
I love
you
it.
had some language in the chat last night. You
Rise
said, dude,
up.
I don't
was
like you
because
guys going at Commissioner.
Now
Duty.
I got to sit here
Tim Donaghy.
and Doogie's trying. That's 2 weeks in a row. He deleted it week 1 because someone else on Twitter called him out. I'm walking out of Jay's studio and I get some tweet that says, "Great job going 0-3." I go, 0-3. It wasn't a good day, but I'm like, we were 1-2. No. Now I'm scrambling to find the line.
I know.
And Doogie's tweeted that you guys swept us.
That was the definition of a backdoor cover last night. Like
I
them
said
kicking the field goal.
It was the Playboy story. Partsy, it was the same thing I said.
53-yarder to cover by a half point. Fumble in the red zone. It was gross last night. I hate gambling when that game plays out like it did last night. Because the Bears had a 0% chance of winning the game.
They were just there
Like
for the cover.
0%. They were simply there. They flew into Houston to cover the number. That's what happened. All right. You guys are on Kirk Cousins on a Monday night tonight.
Dude, even hearing that. If you made
That's
that pick, I would have
outrageous.
slapped you in the side of the
AJ
head. I would have
Brown's
shook
out.
your hand. And said,
That's thank you.
Partsy, A.J. Brown's out. We're in good shape.
This is where
A.J. Brown is the big, like, hey, I don't know,
Devontae Smith
I'm
goes
Jalen
off
Hurts. I
tonight.
don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Just
You
go
know
up
who
there.
goes off tonight again like he did in Brazil? Saquon Barkley's going to torch that defense
I
tonight.
disagree. I think he'll do well, but not torch him.
Torch.
Hashtag rise up.
Oh,
hashtag rise up.
This might
I'm
be
not
the
even sure
TSN
that's the
turning
same.
point
This is
here.
a huge turning
might be
point.
the turning
This
point.
is
Noodles.
the
I'm a
pendulum
little
swinging.
concerned.
I know you're concerned. I'm
very
telling you.
concerned.
You're
We
sticking
got
your neck
this.
out there. I'm telling you that because I got to go down with the ship too. Because if we get dummied on this one, everyone is going to say,
Partsy,
"What on?"
we're covering tonight.
I love
not
the
winning.
evidence
We
there.
just 5.5.
I
right.
get it. I get it.
It's a big number. It is a big number. And Atlanta needs a win here. They do. 0-1 teams generally respond.
I can't
Generally.
wait. I can't wait.
We'll see. All right. Good luck with your picks. There's Luke Wilson. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right. Thanks again to Luke Wilson. CJ will join us. Chris Johnston in about 20 minutes. On camps opening up on Wednesday, I guess the Leafs had their, is it like a charity golf tournament that they
Yeah.
hold every year? I think so. And the Maple Leaf Foundation's there. And
Go to it.
we did go to it. We used to go to it. And
Who
was
that
that
was
one?
Overdrive, right? Or was
I
it
can't
Leafs-
remember if we were in the afternoon or not.
Leafs lunch, maybe.
We did both. We've been there a couple times.
It's
I
been.
think OD was there.
I think
yeah.
we did it twice or 3 times. Because I remember Patrick Marleau was there. That might have been the last time we was there when he had just signed. And that, how long ago was that?
the
That's
Marlowe
6 years
years
ago.
it's
Yeah, the
gotta be.
Marleau years. Like Lou was still here at that point. So it's been a while.
Marlowe, man.
What did that first rounder turn out to be?
Seth Jarvis.
That was Seth Jarvis? That one was Seth Jarvis?
Seth Jarvis. They traded effectively Seth Jarvis to get rid of Patrick Marleau. Do you know how bad that trade is?
We're not doing that.
We're not doing it.
I don't want to do that. I'm in good spirits. I'm
about that.
happy that, hockey's back and we're moving in that direction.
But let's just do a little bit of revisionist history?
Yes.
They signed him to the 3 years. Marleau had to have the third year. I believe some people didn't want to give it to him, but apparently Babs had to have this guy. After year 2, they were like, game over. And they give him to Carolina to unload him, and they have to sweeten it by giving them
a first rounder, which, again, to my knowledge, no one else has had to give up first rounders to dump players.
Well, I think Calgary. Didn't Calgary have to give Montreal to get Sean Monahan?
To take Monahan? Maybe they did give up a first. You're right.
Just recent memory.
Now, that might have been, again, for like the full amount.
Right.
And that's also what came here. The Leafs did not eat any of the $6.5 million that Marleau was getting. It was the full. Carolina said, we'll take the full amount on, and they bought him out or whatever it was. And that was it. It was a cap issue. That's why they moved on from him. Marleau had 27 goals his first year and was pretty effective and had a good year and was, exactly. It was kind of a cool story. Marleau's in town.
Great mentor.
After that, the wheels
for
were
Matthews and
Gonzo.
Then the wheels fell off. The second year it was ugly. Dubas came in. I think that was Dubas' first offseason, and he, Tavares had shown up, and they had to move on from someone. They had to get rid of a certain amount of money, and he was the guy. And they ended up giving a first-round pick, unprotected. Didn't have a great year. Turned out to be the 16th pick or whatever, and Seth Jarvis is now a Carolina Hurricane.
Oof. With a long-term deal.
With a long-term deal. He's such a good player, too.
He is a good player.
He's such a good player. Now, who knows if they would have taken Seth Jarvis.
Right.
There's another.
Probably not, especially if you have Marner and Nylander still in the fold. They might have had Hyman still at that point. They may have been strong on the wing. Who knows what they were going to do. Yeah. But
just happened to be that.
There's a lot of those over the years. There's a lot of those kind of, where did that pick go? The draft tree or trade tree that you can follow.
I know,
and
but
turns into certain
every
guys.
Organization has that. It's just that we focus on this one.
Yeah, of course. But that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the fascination on management, with this stuff out of the weekend from the Jays, with Bassett speaking on it and Springer and them kind of falling on the sword for Atkins and Shapiro. And why are more people focused on the players here? Because when, there's so many mistakes, or there's bad mistakes that really burn you, and you have a history of just living in that and constantly commiserating in that, and just talking to other Leaf fans and Blue Jay fans, and how could this happen? How did they miss that? How did they do this? That's why it's just an icebreaker for a lot of people.
Yeah.
To talk about the what could have beens and the what happens and how did you trade that guy and why didn't you draft this guy? And
it's tough.
It's a sickening practice.
There is, but there's only a few organizations that have the luxury of not doing that for a particular stretch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Kansas City Chiefs are in their glory years. For years, the New England Patriots were like, we've got Brady, we've got Belichick. They were not discussing any stupidity for almost 20 years,
and they still made stupid decisions.
Right.
But they
nobody
get buried
cared about
because
them.
of the success.
Winning is the only thing that you can do to make people immediately flip in your direction.
Winning is the only thing that allows you to lift the rug up and just stuff some stuff
Exactly,
under.
Because you think anybody's questioning any move that Bill Zito's made in the last couple of years?
No.
And they won't question anything that he does in the next 3.
Because they won the Stanley Cup last year. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that long ago that people were like, Sergei Bobrovsky is the worst contract in hockey. That's what people were saying.
It was looking greasy.
Well, he was a backup coming down the stretch.
Didn't look good. I was asked about it 2 days ago, saying, does Bobrovsky get enough respect? Because I think he was on the odds heading into the season, 9th for goaltenders to win the Vezina.
Well, that's a little
Coming
stupid.
into this season.
Really?
Yes, it was something. Somebody called me and was like, don't you think he's, not getting enough respect?
How are there 8 goalies that would be ahead of him?
Who the hell is it? Who are they? Tell me.
I didn't even dig into it. I was like, does he get enough respect? Well, it wasn't that long ago that $10 million a year with him when Alex Lyon was playing in front of him in the first round against the Boston Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
like that, and they
Lyon basically helped them get into the playoffs.
exactly down
Without
the stretch.
him, they're not in the playoffs.
Exactly. So, but he has won 2 Vezinas. Now he's won a Stanley Cup. You could argue that he was in the Conn Smythe conversation on and off for a while there.
For sure. He almost did what, he maybe should have won the Conn Smythe the year before when Vegas won the Cup instead of Marchessault.
Right.
Like, as good as McDavid was this whole playoff run, Bob was out of this world the way he played. Down 3-1 against Boston, 5 games against Toronto.
Yeah.
Can't remember who they played. Carolina in the conference final, I think, beat them in 5, I think it was.
Yeah,
and
he was outrageous.
It was staggering, the numbers.
Yeah.
And like the analytics, the saves above whatever, expected, all
goal
that kind of
save
stuff.
above.
Like, outrageous the way he was playing.
Yeah.
And then his wheels fell off against Vegas, and Vegas kind of steamrolled him. And I think
Marchessault was
Marchessault was really good, and it was a quick Cup final. That hurt.
Yeah.
Like, McDavid, I don't think wins the Conn Smythe if they get swept.
I don't think so. No.
If Florida
I agree.
wins in 4,
it's Barkov or Bobrovsky every
yes,
day. Yeah.
I don't think McDavid gets it because I don't think the voters would allow themselves to do it because it would have been. It's just embarrassing almost.
Yeah.
Like, you get to a Cup final, you get swept.
Yeah.
Them coming back,
Pushing it
McDavid
to 7.
factoring in
Yeah,
the point
absolutely.
accumulation allows him to win that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
8
100%.
guys ahead of Bob for the odds to win the Vezina.
There's not.
Well-
it's insane. I think you got to fact check on 8. If it's 8,
I'll
that's
send the guy
crazy.
a note, but I'm pretty sure you could. Markstrom's name will be in there, right? Because heading to New Jersey, new start, all of that.
If guys like Demko's in there too,
Demko will
it's
be
just
in there.
like-
Hellebuck will be in there. Saros
Sure.
will be in there. Nashville got better. There's
Swayman possibly.
Shesterkin in New York. Now I saw
Sorokin, although
Sorkin. Did you see that?
Getting benched down the stretch last year. Pat
didn't you-
Roy wasn't.
I read today that he had back surgery or something in the offseason.
Sorokin.
He's not ready.
Yikes.
Which
Take
is
him out of
scary.
the top 8.
But there is
Ottinger.
Vasilevsky, Ottinger. Like you can make a case.
Bob is 9th on FanDuel to win the
There you
Vezina.
go.
Those
I
are
wasn't
crazy
lying.
odds. What are the odds?
I'm not
JP?
lying. Like somebody told me that.
Yeah. Those to me are just like, you almost have to put a sprinkle on that because, like, maybe you're factoring in Cup, hangover. Florida did not get better in the offseason.
No.
Like, they may not have gotten, like, significantly worse, but they did not improve.
They've had some losses.
Well, Montour moving on. You had, you've lost a little bit.
But Bob has been so good. Like, he was really good last year.
Yes,
Was
he
he
was
not
excellent.
nominated for the Vezina?
I think he was.
I thought he was, like third he finished.
Might have been 3rd or 4th. Yeah, I don't.
Like, I think it was
don't-
Hellebuck. Demko still got in even with the injury.
Yeah, there was a 3rd.
I thought
one.
Bob was 3.
I have to check that, fact check that. But he was probably top 5 for sure. He might have been 3 though. But you're right. Like for him to be ranked 9th, that's your New Jersey argument there.
Yeah.
New Jersey's at 3rd.
That's silly
But
because he's just been so good.
well, it was just and I said it's what it is people get in their mind these trends. You guys talk about trends all the time. Well, if a guy's up for, it was a couple years ago, Shesterkin was up for the Hart, won the Vezina, was so good. Next year wasn't that good.
He hasn't
last
got a
year-
new deal yet either.
No,
has he?
he hasn't.
and he's looking for a big number, which rightfully so. Like I think about this all the time. William Nylander got $11.5 million, like as a winger. Why can't a goalie get 11? And the people are like,
65
"Are you
games.
ridiculous? That goalie can't get 11.5." William Nylander got $11.5 million. Like, and he's a really good player. But I
Right.
would argue that Shesterkin's a really good
Well, it
player.
has more of
too.
an impact on wins and losses.
Exactly.
Like if you give me 60 starts with a 920 save percentage, that's worth more than any winger in the league.
but that's
probably
what I'm talking about. Position
short of maybe like Matthew Tkachuk or Kucherov.
We just had Josh Yohe on. He was like, "Yeah, the Dubas gave Jari way too much money. It was $5 million a year.
Way too much. Brutal deal.
$5 million a year.
I know goalies.
There's
they're just
third
they're
line
treated
guys
differently.
that make
I've
$5
never
million.
liked that guy though. I don't know why.
Bob was 3rd for the Vezina last year.
Okay, there you go.
All right, CJ coming up. Richard Griffin as well coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, CJ and Richard Griffin coming up. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel still to come as well. See more heartbreak for Rory McIlroy at the Irish Open. He kind of messes up on 17, and then he's got an eagle putt to push a playoff. It's like a 12-footer, 15-footer. He saws the edge off and loses. And he had control of the tournament, basically.
The whole tournament.
Yeah, the whole tournament.
You
And
call him a choke job.
Well, it's not. I don't want to do that. I'm just calling like a spade, dude. This guy's Greg Norman. Like that's what he is now. It's.
Do we need a sweatshirt with his flag?
The picture of Rory like bent over is the new Greg Norman. The 2 putts at the U.S. Open are infamous. They will be remembered and referenced in golf lore forever. Him blowing the Open at St. Andrews to Cam Smith, the lead on the back 9 of Augusta with 9 to go. There's just so many examples of this guy with it like right in his hands, and it just gets away from him.
Well, it's crazy because he has the experience. He has the pedigree of winning.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Something has just got in his head where it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
Then that one's tough. Like, he's Irish. Yeah. It's the Irish Open. He had it.
Dude, Hogarth that U.S. Open, I think back, like, that was shocking stuff.
I missed those 2 putts.
Yeah, like the first one, I was like, did I just watch that?
The 2-footer.
Pull the video when at the start of 6 o'clock. I want to see him miss those 2 putts.
So harsh. I want to see we're going to review the.
I want to review the tape.
U.S. Open tape.
I want to review the. Joe from the Bridge is crafty enough. He'll pull them.
I'm sure you can find a little
to break it down.
Spliced together highlight reel of him jimmying both putts.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible stuff.
Ugly. All right, hour 3 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.